Okay, well, good morning, everybody in the UK. Good evening or afternoon, everybody in China, and good day, everyone in between. And welcome to our session this morning on what you need to know about China's new food safety law. There are certainly many opportunities for UK companies in this sector, but as with any international trade, lots of hoops to jump through and things to be aware of. And recently, China announced a new food safety law, so we're delighted to have Nicola and Ariel Liang, who today will give us some much needed expertise, background and advice on this topic. So before we begin, just a little bit of background for those of you who are joining us for the first time. The China-Britain Business Council is the leading organisation helping UK companies grow and develop their business with China. CBBC supports companies of all sizes and at every stage of market entry with practical in-market assistance, services, industry initiatives, as well as a membership program offering access, seminars and significant networking. CBBC works closely with UKTI and the FCO and has a strategic partnership with the British Chamber of Commerce in Beijing, in Chengdu, Chongqing and in Guangzhou, providing corporate members with reciprocal membership. And we now have also a relationship with the British Chamber in Hong Kong, and very soon we'll have a presence in Fujian as well. Our business-led board and professional team have extensive first-hand experience of doing business in China, and through over 60 years of engagement, CBBC has built up exceptional connections with government and business across China. CBBC services are delivered through a network of 11 offices in the UK and 15 locations across China. CBBC helps companies to network and learn from China-savvy multinationals and SMEs to understand the intricacies of doing business in China and to develop sound strategies for expanding in the fast-changing and dynamic marketplace that is modern China. So that's just a little bit of background on who we are. So this is an interactive session. We welcome your questions. If you have any questions, please do type them in. So the area that I'm highlighting now, if you could type them in there, they'll pop up on my screen. If they're pertinent to the flow of the presenter at that time, I'll interrupt the presenter with the question. Otherwise, we can save them to a Q&A at the end. And if we don't get to them at the end, I'll be happy to pass them on to the speakers afterwards. So before we begin, if I could just ask you please to click on the raise your hand button, just the little button that I'm highlighting right now, and that will just make me aware or confirm to me that I am not speaking out into the ether to nobody. So if you could just click on the raise your hand button, will be very happy. Yes, I can see people clicking on the raise your hand button. A few more, just for my own sanity. If you could just click on that raise your hand button that I'm highlighting. We have a few hands raised, all right? Yeah, we do. All right, good. So, as I have said, I'll just put all your hands back down again. As I've said, if you have any questions, please just type them into the section that I am highlighting here. Fantastic. That is enough from me, I think, to start with. Let me just give a little bit of background on our speakers today. So, Nicola, he supports international clients in establishing and running operations in China, has substantial experience in the food, regulatory, corporate, being set up, M&A restructuring, labour law and administrative problem-solving areas. Most of his clients come from the F&B, automotive and fashion industries, an area which Nicola has extensive knowledge and experience. Ariel Liang is currently a project manager in China's Certification and Inspection Group, CCIC in London. She liaises regularly with the Chinese regulator such as AQSI, CNCA, CQC, and European food enterprises interested in exploring new business opportunities in China. She's a deep expertise in China food regulations, food labeling, customs clearance, and Chinese customer behavior. So that's just a little bit of background of our speakers today. So the first thing, so what I'm going to do next is just give a little bit of a background on F&B and what's been happening over the last little while. So a great highlight of the recent state visit, of course, President Xi Jinping. I think whether he wants to or not, he became an ambassador for an iconic British fish and chips and indeed a beer. After being photographed enjoying himself in a pub with the PM, and I think that beer itself has had a significant spike in orders from China. Also, during the state visit, the British government signed a memorandum of understanding with JD.com, one of China's leading grocery online platforms, for further cooperation. And 6 weeks of promotional campaigns under the Food is Great banner for British companies in China culminated earlier this month with the UK's largest ever food and drink mission to Beijing and Shanghai. About 140 UK delegates took part in the Shanghai leg of the mission and joined promotional activities around the food and hotel exhibition FHC, which is one of China's signature international food and drink exhibitions. Whiskey, gin, beer, cider, English sparkling wine, pork and dairy were among the highlights of the campaign, which was supported by the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Liz Truss. During the FHC mission, Britain signed a deal to export up to £100 million worth of barley to China over the next 5 years to feed a growing appetite in the Chinese market for craft beer. And finally, the last point I would raise, the UK is discussing with a number of key Chinese online platforms, including Alibaba, JD.com, Yihaodian, to help UK companies go online. For any of you who don't know how important online is in China, I would turn your attention to the 11/11 online Singles Day sales that happened earlier this month. Just throw that into Google and then you'll get an idea of the scale and scope of online penetration in China, particularly for all forms of retail. All right, so and for any other sector information and insights, just go to our page there, which is cbc.org/sectors, food and drink, and there you'll find all sorts of information, bits and pieces. And most importantly, our sector leads, Claire Urry and Antonetta Becker, are also listed there. So that's just a little bit of background to set the scene today. It is now time for me to hand over to Nicola. Let me just unmute you, Nicola. Nicola, are you out there?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So here we go with the PRC, New Food Safety Law, and which impact it has on food products import. Very briefly, who we are. HFG, we are a Chinese law firm based in 3 major cities in China, dealing with intellectual property and several other issues, including food regulatory issues and compliance. We can move to the next slide. Okay, you can see here how important was 2015 for a new for safety law regulation in China. We have several new pieces of legislation. These are only, let's say, the major ones. The new food safety law, which entered into force a couple of months ago, advertising law, which definitely impacts food industry, and I selected a few of the most important regulation. Labeling of food for special dietary use, use for food additives, which of course is very important for the food industry, which was deeply reformed in May this year, a regulation concerning food recall. This is just a short selection. We expect 2016 to be equally important with a lot of implementing regulations under the food safety law and the advertising law, which are currently under draft and might enter into force next year. So basically the message is that PRC legal system is deeply going through modification and update, and this is happening actually very quickly. We can move to the next slide. Food safety law, which is definitely the most important piece of legislation when we talk about food regulation in China, has several news. These, in our opinion, are some of the main ones, which we can briefly summarize as CFDA, China Food and Drug Administration, become the leading authority with, let's say, general competence over food safety regulation and implementation and enforcement. We have new regulation concerning food operations, so new procedures, new licenses for producers and traders of food. We have specific provisions on online platforms, which, as we know, are becoming more and more important in China to sell products, including food products. We have a strong focus on food traceability, which will definitely lead to a lot of implementing regulations aimed at establishing sound traceability on food products. We have a very important, some specific provision about so-called special food. We will see later on what special food is. And very important, food safety law, the new food safety law, increases the sanctions against infringers. Sanctions were already pretty strong, become even stronger under the new food safety law, because let's remember, food safety is one of the top priority on the agenda of the new Chinese government. Finally, some good news we will see in the end, which is some protection against the so-called abuses from, we call them professional consumers. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, let's very quickly stay on this slide just to see that under the new food safety law we have clearly a leading role of the China Food and Drug Administration, which becomes, let's say, the major ministry in charge of food safety. However, we have other authorities equally important. NHFPC, which is basically the former Ministry of Health, which is basically in charge of risk assessment and standard drafting when we talk about horizontal or vertical standards for specific food products, beer, wine, chocolate, etc. AQSI, which is the mainly in charge of import food, regulation on import food, as well as inspection at the entry port. And then we can see AIC in the central line in the left column, which is basically the authority in charge of enforcement and legal compliance at the retail store. So when we have a label product, when we have a label problem, when we have some trademark or IP issues on the products on the shelves, this is the authority that basically takes the case, issues fines, or seizes products. We can move to the next slide. Now let's focus on import of food products in China. This is a very, let's say, short summary of the main provisions under the new law. Well, normally every food product which is imported into China needs to be inspected at the entry port in China by the CIQ. CIQ is a branch of AQSI, which we just mentioned about, which basically conducts tests on the product itself, basically lab test. So they check basically the chemical composition to check that no harmful substances are present and that it complies with the mandatory content under the specific product standard. They also check the label to make sure that it includes all the mandatory content, and basically most of all it's in Chinese. This we have always to remember. Labels of imported food products always need to be in Chinese. We have specific standards that basically tells us very clearly how labels must be. And these must be strictly complied, otherwise product could be rejected or relabeling should occur at the entry port. we can say that it's very interesting what happens with the food products which do not have a PRC vertical standard yet. This still occurs. Let's say vertical standards are becoming more and more numerous. However, we still have food products without a vertical standard in China because they were not traditionally imported or consumed in China. It happened to us, for example, to work with the kawa root, which is basically a root used in New Zealand. We discovered that this product does not have any PRC standard. So import of this product was extremely difficult. Now the new food safety law tells us expressly that it's possible to apply basically to the NHFPC by submitting to this authority the national standard used in the export country, as well as other international standard. These, subject to a specific evaluation of the authority, might allow, on that specific case, the import of the product, and should trigger a procedure whereby the NHFPC will basically draft and issue the specific standard for that product. So this is an important news because for the first time, let's say China allows use of foreign standards subject to its own evaluation to import products which do not have a standard in China yet. This is significant news. We can move to the next slide. Special food. This, in my opinion, is one of the most important news in the new food safety law for import products. We have a specific chapter dedicated to special food. Special food is, let's say, a general concept which includes, in practice, health food, therefore food with health claims, special medical purpose food, basically food which is, let's say, dedicated on purpose for the intake to consumers with special medical conditions, for example, people with diabetes or with other disease, and of course infant formula, which basically is the king of the food in China. As we see today, is probably the most sensitive food product, is the product which basically triggers probably the biggest business. Now, what we see very briefly is that when we talk about health food, nutritional supplements, nutraceuticals, we are moving towards a simpler procedure. As of today, health food is extremely regulated, can be imported in China only after registration with CFDA, which can take up to 2 years of tests and examinations. Now, the new food safety law says that for that specific catalogs will be issued, a catalog for claims, and most of all, a catalog for allowed ingredients. The health food, which includes ingredients on the catalog, will not need registration anymore, will only need filing, which is a much quicker and straightforward procedure, and of course cheaper. Therefore, at least for these products, import will be much quicker and faster. Special medical purpose are subject to a registration with CFDA. We are waiting for the implementing procedure to understand how complicated it will be, but we expect it to be rather complicated. Infant formula will also be subject to registration, and let's say implementing regulation are being drafted and are currently subject to public comments, so we expect them to come next year. The main news are that no sub-packaging is allowed, therefore infant formula imported has to be imported already in the minimum retail packaging that will be sold, so cannot be repackaged in China. upon import must have at least 3 months of shelf life at the moment of CAQ clearance, and most of all, different brands can be used only for formula for milk formula with a significant difference. While in this moment, mainly for actually domestic producer, we have a lot of brands for milk formula which has very similar, almost identical composition. We can move to the next slide. Very quickly, third-party online platform, given the huge importance of e-commerce, even for food in China, we have some specific obligations on these platforms. Basically, they need to implement real name registration for users, basically food traders, and basically check the qualifications of the traders. This applies, of course, also for foreign companies which open a shop on such online platforms, and this applies also to the competitors or to Chinese shops open on these platforms which might sometimes sell counterfeit food products. So this, let's say, might help foreign companies to fight food counterfeiters selling their products online in China. Let's see how this will be implemented. We can move to the next slide, please. Sanctions. Okay, we are not going through all the sanctions in detail. This is just an example of sanctions under the new food safety law. They can be much harsher than before. You see, sometimes we go up to 15 to 30 times the value of the non-compliant food. We can move to the next. You see also harsh sanctions on online platform, which therefore will put more pressure on its users, on the foreign companies, foreign food companies opening shops on the platforms. They will require, of course, much more compliance even on your side, because they might be directly fined. We can move to the next. Very briefly, the food safety law for the first time provides details about food recall. Food recall can be, let's say, launched or must be launched either by the producer or by the trader, importer, or by CFDA whenever non-compliant food is or is suspected to be on the market. Very important, food recall might be triggered also for mislabeling or for non-compliant labels. In this case, of course, the sale can continue as long as the mislabeling has been rectified, which means basically has been corrected by pen or by a sticker on the non-compliant food product. We can move to the next. Labeling. Okay, first of all, we do not have significant news on food labeling in the new food safety law. However, labeling still gives a lot of compliance problems to food exporters. So let's quickly see how labeling is regulated. You see a long list of regulations. This is just to explain that labeling a food product in China is complicated. You need to know exactly the specific regulation applicable to your product, otherwise you might incur in problems. Also because, please check these provisions of the Supreme People Court of 2013, basically expressly says that the legal action of a consumer against a non-compliant food product must be supported by the court, even if the consumer was perfectly aware of the non-compliance at the moment of the purchase. So even in case of, let's call a bad faith consumer, we are still subject to fines if we are not compliant. Let's move to the next, please. Basically, beside, let's say, technical compliance, labels shall also be clear of any false information or any mention of disease prevention or treatment statements. Must be clear and easy to read. And if we are dealing with health food or food supplements, basically we must stick exactly to the same label which has been registered and approved by CFDA. The biggest danger for food labels, beside the technical compliance, are claims, not only for health food but also for normal food. Claims such as low cholesterol or low energy, low calories are strictly regulated, can be used only when they perfectly match the legal conditions that are basically regulating those claims. Finally, I would suggest, I see time is a little bit running out, we can go directly to slide 15.
You'll have to just make sure that I'm on the right one. I have a different number than you, so just tell me
the next one?
Yeah.
Next one. This one.
Okay, great. If anybody has any questions, by the way, if anybody has any questions, I know we're going through some very, very specific technical things here, so it's a little over my head, but if any of our listeners have any questions, please do type them in, and I'll be happy to pass them on to Nicola. Back to you.
Okay, so basically we are talking about something new happening in China since a couple of years, at least. We're talking about professional consumers. Now, we saw that in China we have harsh regulations against non-compliant food products. Many consumers actually take advantage of this regulation. They specifically target a non-compliant product in order to get profit out of those. We call them professional consumer. Mr. Wang Hai and Mr. Li Xuesong, we see mentioned in this slide, are particularly famous. Actually, now they evolved into consultant for food companies, but basically the business model of a professional consumer is to look for a non-compliant product, buying as many pieces as they can, because according to the law they can claim up to 10 times what they spent for this non-compliant food product, even if they were perfectly aware that the product was not compliant. You can imagine that when you talk about the mass market chocolate or whatever product which is sold in large quantity, this can become a big problem. Because if a batch or several batches of products have been mislabeled, a typo or a wrong translation of an ingredient, we have thousands or millions of non-compliant food products on the market. You can multiply by 10 times, and that's the potential risk that food companies incur. Let's move to the next slide, please.
I've got a question here from CK. Please excuse the bells ringing in the background here. It's actually our weekly fire alarm test, so that's perfectly timed for me to come back online as soon as the bells are ringing. The question from CK is, where can we find the filed system for food ingredients that otherwise would have involved CFDA registration in the past? Sorry, can you repeat? I don't understand completely the question. Where can they find what? The filed system for food ingredients that otherwise would have involved CFDA registration in the past.
Where they can find? I would say on CFDA website maybe, or on some legal database, but most likely these documents might be in Chinese.
Okay, fair enough. One other question here just before we move on from Ajit. Do you know any agencies that can help new exporters to register their food products and help them navigate the Chinese CFDA requirements? His company happens to sell teas.
Tea, like tea leaves,
Yeah.
tea bags. Well, yes, we know. Well, we also do these. So yeah, definitely I know, and I can provide details of this agency directly to this company. I don't have those information with me now, but we do have details. However, for tea leaves, I mean, if you talk about tea bags, I'm not sure that a registration with CFDA is required. Let's say normally a registration is required for products with CIQ at the import port. A general registration is required for any food exporter of any kind of food only once with AQSIQ, but it's pretty simple and can be done online also from abroad. And then for specific products, milk products, meat, and fish products, etc., you have to go through a specific approval of your production site. For tea, frankly speaking, I'm not sure that registration is required.
Okay, interesting. And just from myself, and just for maybe companies who aren't used to the China market, do people typically use agencies as an intermediary? I mean, it happens in other areas like other areas of IP and other areas of compliance. Do food companies typically use an agent to help them with these sort of administrative things, or can the company go themselves and do it and feel confident to get it done?
Well, it depends. If we talk about, let's say, standard products, so by standard product, I mean every product which is not one of the so-called special food that we saw before. So no infant formula, no health food. Let's say companies can do themselves, but to handle this, they need to have somebody in China to take care daily of these procedures. Otherwise, they might use, let's say, either their importer might take care of this procedure at the custom or at the CIQ. Sometimes they can also hire an agent or a consultant or a lawyer, as they prefer. But let's say, I would say 80% of the time they ask support to the importer. Okay. It's different when we talk about health food or infant formula. Then you need to go through a rather complex procedure. You need to appoint a specific consultant to do this.
All right, thanks, Nicola. I'll let you get back to your presentation and we'll move on a slide. Okay,
so I will just show the last slide because I think I already trespassed my time. Okay. Let's go back to the pictures. I want to show this one. Brief story. My wife called me, Nicola, I'm at the supermarket. I want to buy this, but I see all these patches. I'm worried. What shall I do? Well, I told her, please buy immediately because for me it's very interesting. So, let's say in import food supermarket in China, we often see things like this. Why? Because in many cases we talk about food products which were, let's say, not packaged expressly for China. The same packaging that goes to USA, for example, is then sent to China. Maybe is an import, is parallel import, or maybe is simple a product which was not customized for China. Now, many times this packaging shows, even in English, claims which are not allowed in China. Now, under these stickers, we can see one claim is with whole grain first ingredient. If you write something like this in the label, you should specify the percentage of this ingredient. The most dangerous one was can help lower cholesterol. Well, in China, to do something like this, you must be registered as health food, 2 years of registration, which I believe these Cheerios did not go through. So in order not to incur in sanctions, because a consumer could buy all these products on the shelves and ask for 10 times what they paid, and then move to the next supermarket and do the same thing, and go on over and over again, in order to avoid these, companies, basically the retailers, choose to basically cover all these claims. Of course, the product is not very sexy at all, and of course, a very, let's say, bad faith, very motivated consumer could peel off the stickers and basically say that the products was sold with those claims which are illegal. These are just, let's say, some examples that show how non-compliance, labeling non-compliance, can create problem in China. Most of all, when you are a foreign brand which is sold, whose products are sold for a much higher price than Chinese brands, these 10 times punitive damages can be, let's say, can give a lot of motivation to professional consumer. Now, the good thing is that under the new law, let's say, despite the fact that the tenfold punitive damages are still there, however, the new law expressly says that, let's say, problems of mislabeling which do not give a wrong information about food safety do not trigger anymore these 10 times punitive damages sanction. However, for any other mislabeling problem, this sanction remains. In the following slides, we see other similar cases. In the next one, we see products sold with organic label. In China, in order to be organic, you need to be certified by a specific authority in China. Even label in foreign language cannot be used if you do not have this specific approval. And in the next slide, again, we can see that products, some of them also in German, are covered in some parts to avoid sanctions.
Yeah, and Nicola, I mean, Kate is asking, and I'm also baffled and bewildered. How does this get through customs? How does it get through AQSIQ testing? How does it just?
Yeah. Well, the point is that AQSIQ can control only a part. Let's say AQSIQ, what do they control? They control that the label. When we talk about the label, we talk about the mandatory label. So ingredients, shelf life, producer, product name, etc. They control that these Chinese information are correct. They control that the chemical composition is correct. For example, chocolate in China cannot have any copper or just very little copper. If we have too much copper, as is the case for European chocolate, this cannot enter. They check these kind of things. But the advertising part, they don't control. They maybe have just a very random control. The advertising part, which we are talking about in these pictures, is subject to the control of AIC. And AIC, they control at the retail point. So even if we go through the custom, it does not mean that our products are 100% compliant.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll move along then, and maybe we'll wrap up your bits and pieces and move on to Ariel.
Exactly, I'm done. So thanks for the time. The last slide basically just shows some cases, some typical non-compliance cases. I can, let's say, quickly focus on the bottom left, wrong translation of raw material. Let's say food company is always translated the word almond with a Chinese word, which basically turned out to be not exactly correct. And consumers basically targeted chocolate companies which sell billions of pieces of chocolate in China to basically blackmail and ask for compensation. So just to give you an idea, a client of ours had over 100 litigation in 1 year for this assumed wrong translation of food ingredient. So this is, let's say, what happens to mass market food companies mainly when the labeling is not compliant.
Interesting.
My presentation is finished, so please.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks.
I think we can move on.
Thank you for that. And I guess from your perspective, the moral of the story is always have a good lawyer. I think that's, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. What I will do is I'm just going to put you back on mute, and I'm going to bring Ariel into the conversation. I did get a few questions. For those of you who dropped in a question, if we don't get to it now, we'll get to it at the end or indeed afterwards. So, Ariel, are you out there?
Hello, David.
Yes.
Hello, David. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Right. Thank you for Nicola's presentation. It's very nice, and also I have lots of common insight that Nicola already introduced. And we just shortly, briefly, and see that when I was in CCIC London and some clients' question and our experience about UK exporters issues, so we just concluded and sum up, and hopefully it will give you more idea about that. So that's the first time, thank you, about our CCIC. And could you move to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Next, please.
There we go.
Right, thank you. So we are the first third party in China, and we founded in the 1980s. So we including the tax inspection and certification. It's like the SGS and Intertech in the world. And also, it's like we are the state-owned company in China. Before, we just belonged to AQSI. Recently, we just become the third party, but we still have some, like the chairman or the other from AQSI, CIQ, or CNCA that Nicola already said before. So now we have already more than 300 offices all over the world. We have the office in London. We also have the office in Germany, Spain, and French, and Netherlands in Europe. So, please for the next slide. Thank you. So recently now we dominate two TIC brands, is CCIC and CQC. So for CCIC, we just do the tax and the inspection things. For the CQC, we do the certification things. It's like the organic certificate, and we issue the organic certificate here. For CCIC, we help the CIQ and CNCA to do the inspection and test for the third party or for the custom clearance via the exporters. And we also joined the international group. And there you can see there's a lot of group. We already been a member of them. Right, please. Next slide. Thank you. So now we just, because we are the office in London, so we just find out more questions and more issues about the UK companies here. And the first, I think Nicola already introduced about the 4 authorities in China is AQSI, CNCA, and CIQ, and CCIC. So the first of 2 is like to do the new food safety law. They just build them up and they just to audit it how it was going. And the CIQ is just like a separately branch. They have the branch in the each port of China, and the CCIC, like us, which is a third party, but we are the biggest and earliest party there, and so we help CIQ to do the inspection things, especially for food, for export food. So let's move to the next slides. Thank you. So now we just introduce our service here because recently regarding our new food safety law, we just have the with Shanghai Free Trade Zone, we just built up the new pre-shipment inspection scheme that's with the Shanghai CAQ there. And it will be very, very good news for our UK exporters because they can move their products to China smoothly and efficiently and quickly. I will do the introduce for the next slide. Also, we do the food labeling design testing. I just heard there's one question from our listener that they just asked how to do the food labeling and testing. We can help you do that for all the service there. And it's like, because till now, regarding for our new food safety law, the food labeling is very important. And also, as Nicola said, it needs to register on our CIQ system online, so things will be tough. But with our experience, it's not a big issue, so we can help you to sort it out. So the third is like the pre-factory audits. This is where CNCA, because some company in the UK, they need to do the register for the CNCE. We will talk later about what kind of company need to be registered for CNCA. And after the register, CNCA will do the auditing every year for one time every year. So they just give offer to the auditor and then traveling back from China to the UK and do the factory audit. We can help you to do the pre-factory audit, which means it's like regarding our Chinese new food safety law and the new standard to see if your factory is target our Chinese standard or not. So the the fourth is China Organic Product Certification. This one's very important because recently we have some questions like, we already have the organic certificate here. Can I print our organic labeling on our package? The answer is no, because you must target our Chinese organic certification, Chinese organic standards. And also for this part, we can talk later. And the other, we also have the custom declaration and company inspection service, which can improve your custom clearance on time. So can we move to the next slide? Right, thank you. The next place. The first, yeah, thank you. The first is about the pre-shipment inspection scheme. This one is very important because we are here just request our clients' requirements. One of our clients, the first is like one of our clients said that Ariel, our product, our food for the custom clearance needs 1.5 days, and it will be 90 days. Can we do that custom clearance shorter time? And we can, because our shelf life is limited. We said, okay, let's ask to CIQ Shanghai to see. And so that's why our scheme will beginning. So let's introduce step by step. The first is like we need to do the label design. It's like labeling now is very important in China. One is something wrong for the labeling, your product might be recalled. So that's very important. We need to check the labeling to see if it's okay to target our Chinese requirement. And secondly, we can do the test for your products. It's like we can do the test in UK or Shanghai, it depends. But normally it's like we can send the samples to Shanghai to do the food test. It's like a microbiological test and the macro test. So it's like normally it's like the test fee here is much more expensive. So normally, if your product is okay to do the shipment or it's okay to the delivery to Shanghai, would prefer our clients to do the delivery to Shanghai. And the third one is do the inspection. The inspection is in our loading place. It's like we have the inspector to do the inspection for, for example, in Brighton or in Northampton, that the place that you are loading, or in your factory, that's your loading place. We do the inspection here. And then we issue the test report and the inspection report. Then CIQ Shanghai will do the custom clearance directly. You don't need to wait there. You don't need to wait for the port for maybe 1 month to wait for the certificate. things like that. Normally, for CIQ do the custom clearance, they need to do maybe 1 month or 2 months. And we just move all the things before they do. It's like we behalf CIQ to do the test in UK, and we behalf CIQ do the inspection in UK also. And then they don't need to do the test and the inspection on the port. You can do the custom clearance directly. And also all the tests and the inspection things we will do is during your shipment. It's like your cargo is already on the sea, so we can do it in the same time. And finally, we can issue the report on time. We directly transfer to CIQ. CIQ can trust our report and then give you the certificate. It's like this certificate is like a sanitary certificate, and importer use this certificate, they can sell them on the Chinese market. Otherwise, they cannot do the selling on the Chinese market. And this is very efficient way. And for our experience, it can do maybe less than 30 days. It will be okay. And 30 days will be okay. Yes. So can we move to the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, this is our the whole chain for the application and the pre-shipment inspection scheme. We just from the application and simple delivery and do the test, and if you passed, we can supervision of loading by CCIC London, and then we just submit the report and quick clearance, and then you can sell it on the Chinese market. And for this one, we already have good experience for the alcohol. I mean the whiskey, cider, and red wine, and the other alcohol things. And we also have the prepackaged food. It's very for the prepackaged food. It's not that easier than alcohol, but the procedure is the same. So just the test item and the inspection things is maybe tough, because for the prepackaged food we ask more about the test item. It's not just like alcohol, it's a sample. And also the olive oil and also the other things. I think all the food, if you are interested, you can contact me, and we can contact to CIQ to see if it's okay to do the pre-shipment inspection to let your custom clearance go faster and faster and faster. Okay, let's move to the other slides. Thank you. Right, so the test we already talk about is like a microbiology test and heavy metal test, and some pesticides residue and veterinary drug residue. Because in China, the residue is very important, because before we had some problem for that. So now it's very, very important for the CIQ to do the residue test and also the heavy metal test. For example, it's like because your product, like a pre-packaged food, for example, for the olive, because the olive is like they need the temperature lower to do the shipment, so they need to do the microbiological test. It's very important. But also for the heavy metal test here, it's very expensive to find the laboratory. For the laboratories, is always asked for the UCAS certification and the 17025 certification at the laboratory. So it's like sometimes the laboratory test fee is much more expensive. So we just prefer you to have some documentation to see that from your orchard it's already target the standard in Europe or the other, and also from your manufacturer. I mean, your manufacturer is already do the test by yourself, and then we can, regarding for those test reports, and we can sort it out to see what else. I mean, what else items you are not to the test, so we can help you to do the test finally. And then for the other, we just regarding our Chinese standard to see the other items will be target on our standard. Then it will be fine. So yes, can we move to the next report? Thank you. And for the what about the benefits? Definitely can reduce the clearance time, and also enterprise can do the upgrading in CIQ. Things like that, because the CIQ, every year CIQ some grade A, grade B for the exporter company. And because we have good relationship with CIQ, and we also join in the same scheme. And if you join this scheme for 1 or 2 shipments later, you can have a good rating in CIQ. So for the next time, maybe they don't ask for to simply your test, to simply your product to do the test via the CIQ, because CIQ do the test needs maybe 1 more month, so it will be delayed your selling on the market. So after you target this upgrading, so maybe you have the deeply trust by them. So you don't need to do more testing on the custom clearance. So it will be very easily for you to do the custom clearance in Shanghai Free Trade Zone. And also it's more controlled by exporter, because we have the experience like the importer in China and the exporter in the UK. Maybe they don't have the very good communication to each other, and things will be tough. Sometimes they have problem for the food export, and the documentation is prepared by the Chinese importer. So for the exporter, they cannot 100% control their food safety and their product. So they also have some issues about that. If we move all the things, if we move all the work before we do the shipment, things will be easier. So the product and the documentation things will be controlled by the exporter, is by our UK companies. So if you have some problems, have some questions, it will be easy to solve, and then you don't need to the other company to join into these issues, and things will be very complicated. So that's why we have this scheme to got the UK company have more benefits there, especially for the drink, I mean the alcohol things, and also for the prepackaged food. Later we will have some scheme for the cheese, for the milk powder, and for the other, but we will see, and we will also update to the CBBC and let you know about our update news. Right, so can we move to the next slide?
We can, Ariel. I have a question from Ajit. Are the various inspection and testing schemes the same for goods sent by air freight and shipping?
Yeah, the same. It's a ship. Both the air and the shipping is the same. Yeah, just the shipping way is not the same, but the other things is will be okay. But we still ask the shippings like if your food is target the pallet. I mean, because we ask the product quantity. But for the other things, we can ask that if it's your target quantity. But I think 1 pallet will be okay, right? All right, so.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. So for the others, like food labeling design and testing, this one is very, very important because, as Nicola said, and also for our new food safety law, this one have some problem, it will be recalled, definitely. So our CCIC can target this service for you. It's like the first we can register for our CIQ on the system. This one will be definitely helping you for that. And secondly, it's like, sorry, could you move to the next slide? Right. Thank you. It will be very easier. So we will help you to do the three things here. The first is like the original label risk evaluation and ingredient assessment. This one we use 3 working days to help you to provide that if your ingredient is in compliance with the requirements of Chinese national standards, and if the label contents and ingredients content in compliance with the relevant specifications. The third is provide a suggestion on compliance, and the fourth will issue the consulting report. This is just that useful for the company that you are not do the food labeling and you plan to do the food labeling, you plan to do the food export to China. And then we do the food, which we just do the food labeling design. It's like the complaint, the food label, the completion for the label comment, and the compliance for the food content with the Chinese national standards. And then we confirm that it will be okay to do the labeling design. And then we will also issue the consulting report. But this is just for before. It's like you already do that. And the second, like we will issue the labeling design. It's like we can issue the food labeling, and you can directly stick it on your product package. Also, you can print it on your product package. And also, because this one we need to do the application for our CIQ system. So this one, we do our CIQ system is like, because for the other company, maybe they are not registered by CIQ, but we are target our standard. This one is must be doing. After your company, your exporter, your product will be registered on our CIQ, since will be easily, they are not do check for your labeling very sticky. They are just, okay, you already registered for our CIQ, so just have a look and then you can pass. Those things will be easily. So this is our food consulting service here. You can directly 100% pass it for us, and we can help you to do it. Maybe 1 week will be okay. And also it's like, right, things like that, because things like for the pre-factory audit, for our second service of pre-factory audit, this is via CNCA. And till now, for our data shows in the UK, we ask that 5 kinds of product need to be registered for CNCA. It's about the infant milk formula powder, and the dairy product, and the chilled frozen pork product, and the cold store, and the seafood product. We can see that the number is like how many companies already register in the UK to CNCA. Now, for the seafood, it's lots of companies. There is 203. And the other is for dairy product. The dairy is like the cheese, the milk, the other milk. So it's just a 55. For the infant milk powder, it's just 1 company already registered. And for the frozen pork, because in the UK now just a pork can do the export. For the chicken, for the beef, for the other lamb, we still need to wait, because for that one we cannot do the shipment to Chinese. So for the pork it's okay, and we also have 6 companies do the registration. So it's like we still have a big market here. And also we do the pre-factory audits, like we help CNCA to do the factory audit to see if you already target for the CNCA standards. Things like that. If CNCA do the audit, say all right, so you still have something are not target our standards, so you cannot do the shipment, you cannot do the export for the next time. So since will be suspended. We are here to help you to find that if you are okay to do the shipment, and also it's like it's better for you to know, and you have time to preparation after the CNC here to do the auditing for you. So can we move to the next? Right, thank you. The other is like Chinese organic product certification. This one also very important. Sometimes we have some plans to ask me that, Ariel, we have the organic certification in Europe, but we are not sure that we can do the printing our organic mark on our package in the Chinese market. Things like no, because in China we have till now we have our own organic certificate standards. We must target our own standard, then you can do the organic mark in our Chinese market. And also it's like our CQC is the biggest and earliest, and can do the certification very widely for our product, for all the food. I mean, from the orchard and the manufacturer, from the market, from the whole chain, we control it very easily and smoothly. And also it's like for the products, it's like the agriculture food, the prepackaged food, the milk, or the other foods, and we can do it to do the organic certificates on time. And also, we just built a good communication for the China gap. So it's like, this one is like international gap in the international. So our standard is the same, and we can both entrust our certificate each other, so things will be easily. And we already certified 10 organic farms in Europe just in 2014. For the 15, we are not sure, but we can see in the future this will be many and many. And yeah, let's move to the next. Right, so for the customer declaration and company inspection service, it's like we already have lots of service. We have the good relationship for them, and we already build good communication, and we also build, have some communication before. The first one is a Shanghai Free Trade Zone. It's like very, very important. 80% of the product from Shanghai Free Trade Zone is like we will control now. And also in Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Tianjin, Qingdao, and actually it's like all the port you can imagine in China, we can sort it out. And also now we just in Shanghai Free Trade Zone, we have some like pre-shipment inspection, food labeling and design, because 80% of food labeling design is via us. Especially for the infant milk powders. So we have good experience here for help the UK company to sort it out. And also for the custom declaration and company inspection service, we are sure that we can do it as soon as possible. It's like we will reduce much more clearance time. Because normally in China, the custom clearance time is longer. It's longer than you cannot imagine. So if our service to help you to do it very smoothly and efficiently, so you don't need to wait on the customs clearance. And regarding your shelf life for the food, you can still have long time in the market.
Ariel, quick question.
Yeah.
I'm conscious of time, but everybody is still here and keen and asking questions, so I don't have a problem that we're running over a little bit.
All right.
A question from John. Are the pre-shipment tests only available if products are going to the Shanghai Free Trade Zone?
Until now, yes, it is. Because for the other part, yeah. Because for the other part of ports, they still need to wait. And also the Shanghai Free Trade Zone is like, this is our agreement by Shanghai CIQ. So we already got the permission by Shanghai CIQ. But for the other ports, we can talk. And we also can help them to do the customs clearance faster, if not pass via the pre-shipment inspection.
Okay, and would you expect that to change? I mean, Premier Li announced 3 new free trade zones in Tianjin, Fujian, Guangdong, I think last year or the year before. Would you expect that those places will also have this pre-testing sometime soon?
Well, till now it's just for the Shanghai, but for the other, it's like for the other places still not have the pre-testings. But we can ask and negotiate with the local CIQ to see if it's okay. I don't think it will be tough, but well, let's see. For example, if you do the Tianjin, so we need to get in touch with Tianjin CIQ to see if it's okay to do the pre-test, and then we can see. If they say yes, so things will be easy. But if they say no, so still need to wait. But in Shenzhen, we know that for the alcohol, Shenzhen already have the pre-shipment inspection stamp there. And also it's like this one will be like very fast customs clearance. It's like you don't need to wait on the customs clearance. You just go directly. So if you need to Shenzhen zone, we can give you some documentation and you will see. And also we can help you to contact to Shenzhen to see if it's okay. Because this one is via our CCIC London and it's Shenzhen CIQ, right?
Okay, thank you for that. I've moved your slides along, as you can see. I've just got a quick question. I'm going to bring Nicola back in a minute. Yeah. But I have a question just for you specifically.
All right.
It's from Blair. Do wooden pallets have to be specially marked or treated? I think you talked about the packaging and pallets earlier on. So do the wooden pallets have to be specially marked or treated?
Yeah, actually, for the pallet, for the quantity, it's not that big deal because if you have one pallet, you still need to do the shipment or to do on the market. What we ask for the pallets, like we need to ask to get a sampling there. It's like for example, for the cheese, if you do maybe one pallet of cheese, but for one item cheese is like one product, you just have 3 quality. But we ask two quantity to do the two quantity is like 2 quantity to do the test item. So for the 2, you just do the item test for the test, but just 1 to sell it on the market. So that's why we ask for the public quantity is will be targeted on the requirement, but 1 pallet will be okay. And also we still ask for the specification. Is like for the different product we have different requirements. We still need to see. Is that right?
Thank you, Nicola. I'm going to bring you back in there. Are you out there?
Yes.
Super. Okay, so
I am.
So I just got a question for you right now. This is from Richard. Are there any food labeling regulations which relate to the expiry date food label information? And if so, could you expand a little on that?
Well, yeah, let's say the shelf life is definitely part of the mandatory content of the labeling of food products. Let's say we have to specify on the labeling the production date and the best before date. Let's say the specific regulation mainly basically provide on how this date can be written. Basically, we have let's say specific rules on how to and where to write the month, date, and year of expiry. In this moment, let's say it will be a little complicated to explain in detail, but let's say what we need to look in the law is exactly how this should be written. Let's also remember, even if maybe it's not necessary, that these are different from the regulation in Hong Kong. So food that is exported to Hong Kong is subject to different regulation, even for the expiry date, than China. And basically that's it. The best before date is basically defined as the date when the product, let's say, ceases to have to preserve its quality as it is on the production date. So this
Okay.
is the
So yes is
that's
the
the principle.
Yes is the answer.
So yeah,
you need to have to go
yes.
into more specific details, maybe about the type of product and that kind of thing. Another question
Exactly.
to you, Nicola, from Lauren. Is infant food considered a special food? Like jars or pre-prepared meals, are they considered special food?
Well, yes. To which purpose? I mean, let's say special food is in the food safety law is considered let's say is a concept that we basically first of all find only in the food safety law, the so-called special food. In the food safety law, this concept is used basically to explain that the special food needs some CFDA approval. Then, if let's say the specific regulation of each food included, let's say, food for infant, different from infant formula, is regulated in the specific product vertical standard. So let's say the principle is that for sure for infant food, even different from infant formula, we need to undergo a CFDA control and to comply with very strict vertical standard. Then, depending on which kind of food for infant we talk about, we might have a different standard, which basically sets different thresholds of ingredients.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. I'll ask one final, there's a couple of questions we won't get to today, but I'll be happy to pass them on. One final one, Ariel. Does every factory have to be audited once a year, or can it be randomly chosen for audits?
Yeah, okay. Things like that. Thank you for this question. And things like that, because for the factory audit, CN is via CNCA, and as I said, all the factory will be registered for CNCAs like infant milk powder factory, dairy product like cheese, and chilies and frozen pork, and seafood, and the cold store. Just this kind of factory need to be registered for CNCA first, and then CNCA will arrange audit once time a year. They will not tell you when they will be there, but they will told you at the same year, I mean before 3 or 4 months, and then you can do the preparation, and then you just wait them to do the audit. It's okay. And to make sure that your factory audit target for the hardship HACCP, and also to target for the already have some certificates via the UCAS or the other to see your product will be okay. And the other very specific auditing, our inspector will let you know. So they are not normally to do once a year, but they will let you know. It's like the requirement is 1 time a year, but we will see. It's not that must be 1 time a year.
Okay, thanks, Ariel. I think we'll wrap it up there for today. I'd like to say thank you very much to our presenters, to Nicola and to Ariel, for their insight, for their expertise, for handling the questions that are thrown at them. For all of our listeners today, this session is recorded, so it will be put onto our website and you can view it afterwards. If you want to have another look yourself, or indeed if you think there's a colleague or somebody else in your business world who should probably have a look at it, all of our webinars are available on our website under What's On. You'll see a webinar clicky bit, and you can find them there. Other than that, yes, that's really it for today. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I wish you all happy China business, and please keep an eye out for our sector experts who can help you to enter the China market, to Claire, Antonetta. And finally, you'll receive an automatic email within the next 24 hours. In that email, I will include Nicola and Ariel's contact details. I know a few of you have asked and would like to follow up afterwards. So hopefully that covers everything. Thanks very much. Have a great China Business Day. Bye-bye.